I have lived here for 16 years and only started working with PT partners, I want to say 5 years ago when they first started somewhat. And it was a way to bring the residents together. And I noticed that for what PT partners did for the residents, they helped them recognize their rights and their power as far as when it comes to where they live and what they deserve. But there was always a rift in that. So I guess you could say PT Partners is always helping the residents come together, but there's always something trying to pull it away. I'm not sure how to explain that, but it's almost like you have to live it to know it. I've heard the phrase putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, but I never thought I'd see the whole thing play out like that. But they do it every time. Every time. You have to live here. And they clock out at 5 p.m. and they go home. And I've said that so much to their face till I am actually exasperated. You go home at 5 p.m. I stay here. You don't know what it's like. Because sometimes they plea and they're like, oh, we understand. And this and that, whatever. And I'm like, no, you don't. Stop saying that. Just piss me off even more. I'm sorry. It gets me upset when they say that. I feel like they want to, but they don't. I don't see it in their face and I don't see it in their actions. And I refuse to hear it in their words until they do something, but that's just me. We had another program director and they would bring him all these programs trying to help train us and I guess speak differently and look at things differently. And one of the phrases that came out of all of that at some point was PT Barnum, a place to live where opportunity lives. I would actually love to see that because I live here and it does not feel like that. How can we get there with all the fight back, all the pushback? Because no matter what you try to do, it's almost like, oh, you can't do it this way and you're not supposed to do that. And who said you could do that? Who gave you permission? I mean, this building we're in right now, they want us to pay rent to use this space that is supposed to be a community center. But the fact that we gather as residents and have meetings, oh, we are not supposed to be doing that. You can't ask people to do something that you would never do. You can't ask people to live in a situation that you would never live in. We're human beings first. All of us. We all come from the human race. And what you wouldn't want any of your friends, your child, or your parents to experience, why would you want somebody else to experience that? I mean, I thought we were supposed to be living in one world, experiencing the same thing. Because technically, every human being actually all have the same end goal in this life. We all want to live in a comfortable space. We all want to live a comfortable life. And we all want to be happy with our friends and family. That's it. But some of us can't even get that. Because someone else decides that they're going to be the hierarchy. And since they have to manage that space you live in, they'll be the one to say how you live and when you live it. And that's what that feels like. They're telling us how to live.
Yes, that was wonderful. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing your work with us. So before we get started and go on to the questions, first I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Bree. Pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a creative partner with Black Haven, the film festival. And please do introduce yourself and tell us just a little quick snippet about who you are and what you do.
So my name is Dione Dwyer, and I pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm a mother. I'm a student. I am a CNA, health caregiver, and also a resident leader and president of resident council here in our community.
Thank you. Thank you. So, my first question for you is, so this is so honest and so truthful. So, what inspired you to do this work? And just listening to the stories and seeing all that footage makes you, it really wakes a viewer up. So, thank you for that. But just tell us a little bit about why you decided to capture this story and how you did that.
This story was captured by a group of us, actually. We were trying to do a call to action for um, housing authority. And it literally happened in the beginning of this year, too, as a matter of fact. We have had a task force meeting for about a year or so already, trying to figure out how to maneuver through, these policies and procedures that they have. We're just trying to live a better life, basically. Simple as that. But every time we try to go about it any way we know how, we're always blocked with some kind of red tape. So, this task force was pulled together by our program director, who is trying to help us learn the legal languages and trying to maneuver through that. And so we all in collective came up with this idea of doing this video and putting it out there for a call to action, and hold them accountable for their policy and procedures that they're not following for themselves.
Right. And as you should, this is that story. It's just riveting. It's frustrating as Black people to try to get things done when we don't have the resource to do it. We don't have the people to support us. So the fact that y'all were able to put together this video to really storm down this issue is just so inspirational. And this piece specifically, this represents, how does this, at least I guess this is my question to you, how does this represent Black stories and Black liberation?
Okay, so I guess you could say it represents Black story in a way where, um, hmm, and as I try to think of it, I remember the phrase again: "She who feels it knows it." Like I can't help but say that because everybody walks around talking about these lived experiences, but do they really live it? Do they really know it? And I mean, the person that it affects the most are usually the ones that are trying to do something about it. So when you see people out there making noise about something that seems too simple to even be bothered with, you got to realize that it has to affect them somehow for them to even get up and say something about it. Because from where I'm standing with all of that, I want to say, us Black people, Black women especially, tend to get affected the most because where we live, head of household, mostly women, mostly single, we do just about everything that anybody else does. We have children, we manage the household, we go to work, we teach, we care, we do everything. And yet, when it comes to doing those actual things, we literally have to go above and beyond sometimes, around corners, over hurdles, dig around the way in order to get to the same thing that everybody else just walks a straight line to get to. So, I mean, that's how it feels sometimes for me. I literally get exhausted just thinking about it.
I feel you 100%. Oh my God. The things that we go through just to get simple things done, even simple things, it feels like for us, there's constantly a barrier to one thing after the other. You got to check this box
Hmm.
off. You got to do this.
Every day,
It's a constant battle.
every day, every single day. I mean, I used to joke around way in the beginning when we first started this whole PT Partners thing and say, I come out every day with my boxing gloves on, and everybody look at me like, what is she talking about? You always want to fight? Yeah, I fight to stay alive. I fight to protect my kids. I fight to live here. Literally. I have to. If I don't stand guard every day, something that goes wrong, that usually always goes wrong, is gonna beat me down, and I won't allow it. At least I'm trying not to.
Right. And the crazy thing is, when something goes wrong, you're the first person that people look at, being like, why did it go wrong? You're
Yep.
supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be leading this. And I feel like a lot of
Right?
responsibility falls on us Black women.
Yeah, they ask all those questions like, why aren't we doing this instead? Why aren't we doing that instead? I'm like, oh, so there can be something then.
Yes, indeed. So my next question for you is, with the idea of, women, especially Black and women of color, Black and brown women, having to be this rock for the community, having to advocate for the community, what inspires you as a Black activist, as a Black woman, and as someone who's really rallying for change? What inspires you and what fuels you to do the work that you do?
Originally in the beginning, or I could say still, my inspiration was always my children. Started from when they were in school. Two of them are adults now. I have one left, and he's a junior in high school. So even when I lose track of why I'm doing this, trust and believe that something's going to happen to remind me why I'm still doing it. So the inspiration comes from the kids, because whether we like to know it or not, they are our legacy. They are the generation that we brought into this world, period. They are going to be there after us. Um, and regardless of if we care if they carried on or not, we have to at least care that they have to deal with what we left behind. And I don't think we want to leave something behind that they can't deal with. I'm pretty sure the world would just end.
Hmm. A lot of this social change, a lot of the advocacy that we're doing, I think a lot of people on the outside especially assume that we're doing this for ourselves, when in reality, a lot of the times we're doing it for the future, because we know that right now, it getting better is very slim. The chances are very slim, but for tomorrow, I think that's what a lot of our work attributes to. So definitely agree with that. And my next question for you is, considering all the things that are going on, especially right now in the media with Black individuals, especially our Black women, how do you continue going? How do you uplift yourself, and some of the ways that you would do that?
So a little piece adding to what was said before, how even if this whole thing starts with self, it will always continue, because you know that even if you yourself can't finish it, that they might. And so, with that being said, the continuation of it, how do you continue even when, as most of the times with me, I get tired mentally, emotionally, physically, and you wonder why you want to even bother to continue. But after a while, when you stop and you think about the big picture, I mean, it really isn't about self, or it could come back to self if you actually think bigger. I tend to think in a way where I don't think just locally, I think globally. I mean, locally, we have a lot of stuff going on, literally everything. But when you get into, if the personal is political part, which is a whole nother issue, um, it's literally globally. And if you want to live into this world any which way you want, you got to think about either the Mandela effect, the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, whatever effect it is, whatever you do affects it somehow. So if you want to live in it for yourself, you still got to think about what kind of effect you want coming back to you or your children, because that's pretty much how it works. So it might start with self, it might not end with self, but at some point, you're still doing it for you, but it still also affects everybody else.
There's this huge ripple effect in everything that we do, but especially when it comes to social activism and attaining those civil rights. that affects everybody, whether they like it or not. And my next question for you is, as an activist, as an advocate for the Black community, a lot of the representation of people who are advocating tend to look like us. So what would you say to someone who is not Black or not an American person who wants to get involved in these movements but doesn't really know where to start? How would you engage other folks to join these movements in order to support us?
That could be a tough one. But that also could be easy. For the ones that don't look like us but want to help, I would have to say the first thing to do is to understand where we're coming from. And that should be kind of easy. Like I don't think that in this particular case you have to live it to know it, but at the same time you can also think, what if that were you? Would you want to feel that way? Would you want to be struggling that way and see someone standing at the sidelines that could help and doesn't? You could just put yourself in that person's shoe. It's that simple. Might not be as easy for some, but it is simple. Like I said in the video, we are all human and we come from a human race. And if we can't even at least try to see what the other person is going through would feel like if it was you, then I don't know how you live in this world.
Daily, we need to practice being empathetic and understanding each other. Otherwise, we're just going to keep hitting this wall. So I completely agree. I completely agree. And what do you hope to see in the future of Black liberation and for, your children and their children afterwards? What do you hope to see?
I honestly hope to see a point where they don't have to struggle or fight any kind of fight that we're fighting at all. I mean, from where I see it, as far as I could tell, we're still fighting the fight. We're still fighting the fight that Rosa Parks started, or Marcus Garvey started, or anybody else in history of Black history that we know started. We're all still fighting that fight. But if we pay close attention, we're fighting it a little bit less as time go by. I want to give a quick example. Election day, I brought my son with me. He's 16 years old. I didn't have to. I wanted to because I used to bring him when he was little, but that's because I couldn't leave him by himself. But now I could, and I chose not to. We get to the polling station, and there's a line. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I could have stayed home and played my games." And I'm like, excuse me, the line was not but that long. I stayed in it less than 10 minutes and it was drizzling. He's acting like the line went down the street. It's pouring down rain. I said, you know what? People fought some kind of fight and walked longer lines than this. They walked miles longer lines than this to come and stay in longer lines than this to vote so you can be here. I'm going to need you to pay attention so when it's your turn, you do what you need to do. That's it. He was so upset. All the grunts and mumbling. I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Sometimes you need to light the little fire, give them a little momentum, because right now they don't get it.
No,
But they
they
will.
don't. And they probably won't until that day comes, which saddens me really. But I mean, at any point, just get it at some point. I don't care when, just do. He has a sister who's 6 years older. She voted, she got it. She got it right around his age too. Cause I didn't have to show her, but I was talking about it. Like I said, I started the fight when they were in school. They were in grade school. She's an adult now. She gets it. Yeah. So he's a boy. You know how men are. It takes them a while. They'll get there. But you got to be consistent. And I'm hoping we could do that for the same for anybody else when it comes to anything else. Um, if I think about the story of how Rosa Parks went down, I remembered reading somewhere that it wasn't her first, and she was just tired. Okay, so when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, at some point, that fight it will be in you, and you will do what you have to do. That's pretty much where I'm hoping that world would be at some point, where they're done with the sick and tired, and they don't have to fight as much anymore. Period.
Yes, that is what we need to see. That is what we need to see, especially today. And my last question for you would be, what advice would you give to other Black individuals who are looking for involvement with advocacy, that are looking to get involved, that are sick and tired and don't really know where to start when it comes to advocating, or even people outside of the Black community that are sick and tired of seeing the same pattern? What would you say to them in order to kind of light that fire like we were talking about with your son? How would you do that?
It starts with you. I mean, I started simple. I live in a community. They have residence meeting all the time. I hardly hear about it, but when I did, I was just like, why? But it started there. I just started going to small community meetings. And when I went there, I kind of liked what I heard. So I went back, and they started talking about, food justice for, school lunches and education system. And I was like, whoa, you talking what I'm thinking. Let's hear more. Right? So yeah, it's really simple. You don't have to do anything grandiose. It all starts with you, man in the mirror, all that good stuff. It's there. You start simple in your community, and just kind of like let that ripple effect take over. That is all it is. When it
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to doing anything, like baking, ironing, folding, you have to work with accuracy first before you have speed, before you have mass production. So start with you, work on how good you can get with networking, communicating, and um, finding out what needs to be done in your community, how to reach out, and then it just kind of like, not careful, spread like wildfire from there.
Yes, before you know it, everybody will be jumping on that wagon too. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, so inspiring. So that is all I have for you today. Those are all my questions. You answered them beautifully. Wise words of wisdom. You inspired me. And I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to I just wanted to thank you for, sharing that with us, sharing that story and giving us that advice as well, and just being here in this space with us, because we truly appreciate it at Black Haven. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me, Bree. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, you have a good one and keep making change. Keep making change.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I will try. If not, I'll send my son.